As the Phillies begin to create their hierarchy of top targets in free agency, an interesting rival player has popped to our mind, that being Pete Alonso of the New York Mets. We're going to break down what is being said about the potential of him joining the Philadelphia Phillies, or what other locations could be possible for the polar bear himself. So, Luke, I can see your reaction right off the bat here. I'll give you the floor. You said you've no interest in Pete Alonso, is what I'm saying?
No, I don't like dorks on my team. If Pete Alonso signed with the Phillies, I'd have to delete a lot of tweets.
Sure.
We'd have to probably delete every video that we made throughout the Phillies playoff run. It would be very concerning. Now this is a weird report from Heyman, who just kind of, he's a little all over the place sometimes. But I just doesn't make sense. Don't need him. Doesn't make sense. Just there's no place for him. Those things I don't like. There's really nothing else. There's no place. They don't need them, and I don't want them.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, and to give context, the exact report the report here that we have from Heyman is, quote, the Phillies are looking to add a hitter and replenish their bullpen, but it said it's unlikely they move Bryce Harper back to the outfield to pursue Pete Alonso. Harper has transitioned very well there. Now, I guess my question is, why is this report out? Like, why would there be a connection toward them having any interest in Alonso? Is there like anything to this as far as maybe mind games with the Mets or whatever thrown it? Or do you have any feel on that?
My only thing is maybe because of the Boras thing.
Okay.
But like I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense. Like I just like saw that today and I was just like very confused. There's just not a need. Like, it's obvious the Phillies need a bat, but like they don't need a first base and they don't need a DH.
By the way, Alonso, pretty bad year.
Yeah, no, not a good year at all. I would say for Pete Alonso, 162 games, but he hit just 240. And after 2 seasons with 131 RBIs and 118, he only had 88 this year. He had an OPS under 800 and OPS plus under 125. Just not his best year. He's still going to get some pretty big money, and I think we can sort of get into those possible teams. But it just doesn't make like any sense. No sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and before we get into those possible teams, there are a couple directions I want to go with this. First, this quote that I could not wait to tell you here is, you mentioned our guy Scott Boras. Well, he was asked about the outlook for Pete Alonso, and he said, quote, we have a lot I can't even read this on mine, but talking about being a bear market for the polar bear right here. So, Luke Arcaini, your thoughts on this quote from our guy Scott Boras here?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up here. There's been a lot. Oh, good God. There's been a lot of talk about this being a bear market for first baseman, but for Pete's sake, it's the polar opposite. God, I hate Scott Boras. What a loser. That's horrible. That's really bad.
I think he should build off this more. Like for Soto, talk about how only one team can get him and things like that. I think he should lean into this more.
No, I don't think he should at all. This is really bad. I really don't want Pete Alonso now. I really didn't want him before, but if I ever have to hear that quote again, I really don't want that. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. Apparently, there was a quote about Juan Soto. Behind every great magician, obviously, he said, is the magic Juan today.
Is that real? That's real.
Yeah, that is real. God, this guy sucks, man. Holy crap. All right, fine. Maybe I don't want any Boras guys. Other than Soto, I guess. But yeah, no, just really bad. Don't want Pete. Don't want him more now after that quote. It just doesn't make sense. Like nothing about this, like from a financial standpoint, from a lineup construction standpoint, like just I don't think any of this makes sense.
Yeah. And we did mention Soto here. We did get this update, speaking of the Boras clients here, that word is that Soto prefers to stay on the East Coast, which would be an obstacle for the Dodgers or any other West Coast clubs. The Phillies will likely take a shot at the 4-time All-Star, a source said. So kind of more Yeah, that could be big, could potentially be big. I guess I wanted to ask kind of a more wider question here, Luke, is when you think about like transitioning and with Bryce, I do think he deserves credit for doing an excellent job transition to first base for a guy that had zero experience doing that. And I know he has the catcher's background. He's more of an athlete than I would say your general baseball player, so
Yeah,
this shouldn't be
definitely.
a surprise there. But kind of when thinking towards it, it does feel like this is the final stop as far as Bryce Harper from a positional standpoint. And there's other players that you can use examples, like when you want to think back to the Ryan Howard and Chase Utley days. I know my dad specifically is a guy who always wishes Chase Utley had transitioned to first base to extend his career here. Do you think this is it for Harper, that we never see him in another spot and that he's a first baseman forever?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they put Harper at first base for one reason. I think a reason at the time was because they didn't really know with the Reese thing, and then they obviously had to fill the spot. But they put Harper there to elongate his career.
Yeah.
They put him there so he's not running around the outfield. He was off Tommy John. They don't want him throwing 100-mile-an-hour lasers from 400 feet in right field 5 times a game. They want him playing first base. I think having a bat like that play first base, I think is just like good for your organization. And I think it opens up sort of an outfield position because obviously you have Nick Castellanos out there, but if that wasn't the case, they would have 2 outfielders. They would have to have Schwarber at DH, and then they really wouldn't have many more room for a corner outfielder, right? So now they can go look for one of those. I don't think Harper's ever going anywhere. I think he's really good at it. I mean, his first whole year, he was a Gold Glove finalist. Like he plays the position well. He's an unbelievable athlete. I don't think he's certainly moving anywhere from first base.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the general read here. So again, I am confused why Alonso was even mentioned in the same sentence as the Phillies in that report there, because it does feel like pretty much nothing story. But I did think it was relevant to bring up from the standpoint of they are using the same sentence to talk about things there. So I guess the final question before we wrap up here, I don't want to say. I guess the way I'll put it is, are you going to look forward to not playing against Pete Alonso, assuming that he does leave the Mets? Because it does seem like things are staying that way. Or does this feel a little like Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys-esque, that you don't mind playing that guy all the time? What's your feel on that?
Yeah, I don't really mind Alonso. My issue is I'm happy that he never has to face Aaron Nola again as a Met if he leaves, because that man freaking kills Aaron Nola. Like really bad. Throughout his career, he is 17 for 52 against Aaron Nola with 3 doubles, 6 home runs, 12 RBIs, and a 731 slugging percentage. He has murdered Aaron Nola. It's just been one of those things where it's like the guy has your number. It's been his entire career since he got up. His rookie year, he killed Nola. I believe Alonso's first at bat ever against Nola, he went yard. So it's just really been from the jump. So I don't know. I think if the Mets lose out on the Soto thing, I think they would probably like to bring Alonso back. Granted, I think Alonso will sign before Soto. So I don't really think that would really be their sort of strategy. But I don't definitely think that it's a lock for him not to go back.
Okay.
I think that team's obviously in the mix. The Mets, I think the Blue Jays will be a big team. Maybe for the DH spot, him and Vladdy can sort of rotate first in the DH. I mean, he's going to make some money. So that's really the bottom line. Just hopefully it's not from the Phillies, because that is a really bad report.
Yeah, hopefully not the case there. So Polar Bear, keep on swimming, pal. Not going to be in Philadelphia here, but appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video here. Let us know if you got a different thought in the comments. If you do think there's a way to work to have Pete Alonso play first base, maybe return Bryce Harper to DH and put Schwarber back out there and left, or make some form of that work. I don't know if I see a pathway to it, but you can try and sell me in the comments. So appreciate each and every one of you guys below. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button and dropping a like if you have not already. And me and Luke will be talking with you next time. Peace.